my name is Eric, and I'm a junior here at SUNY Oswego. I'm so excited to host this session of my identity and my career. Throughout this Instagram Live, I'll be talking with an Oswego alum about how they've come to an understanding of their identity throughout their career. In addition, they'll be offering students advice for students that are also currently navigating their career paths. I hope that this session could assist every single one of us with kickstarting and further navigating our own individualities. So if you enjoy hearing their story and our conversation, a different alum and student will be doing this series every Thursday night in January as a part of the Imagine 2021 program. Check out the link in the bio for more information. So before I introduce you to our awesome alumni, I want to tell you a bit more about myself. I am an accounting major with a minor in economics, and on campus I'm involved in numerous of organizations, including Accounting Society, Phi Beta Lambda, Oswego's Pride Alliance, and Alpha Phi Omega. In addition, I'm a resident assistant for Sheldon Hall and a member of Beta Gamma Sigma's Honor Society. Tonight, I'll be speaking with Femi, who graduated Oswego's class of 2015 and majored in public relations. So once Femi is here, if you're in the chat, can you request to join once you're ready? And we'll get the conversation started.
Okay, let's see if this, okay, hey, what's going on?
Hey, Femi. I just told everyone about your graduating year and your major. Can you tell them more about what you do now, what you did in Oswego, and other fun facts about you?
Yeah, so when I was at Oswego, I was a public relations major. I was kind of at this phase where I was a little confused because I was like, I had an international business minor and I had a French minor because I speak French. And at the time, I was like, I wanted to develop my French and I wanted to study abroad. And so I decided to quit French and found a way to get abroad through international business. And so I ended up studying abroad to France, got back and then decided, oh, wait, I got more classes I need to take. Let me just drop this minor. So I did that because I wanted to graduate on time. But so when I was at SUNY Oswego, I was not as involved as I would have hoped. For me, it was really being focused on my career and doing internships. I interned for the study abroad department, who I'm still very connected with. Liz, who is still there. I'm still connected with her and talk to her a lot, especially because both our careers is the same. And on top of that, besides that, I was a building manager. So I worked as a building manager. It was the highest paying job. And for me, that was like important. And I was at Hart Hall, but I definitely did participate in a lot of the conversations around identity and social justice through BSU and ASU, and participated in a lot of organizational stuff. But outside of that, what I'm doing right now, so in the past 5 years, I've been doing contract work. I started out working for United States Agency for International Development. So I was a communication specialist there. I worked in Ghana and Ethiopia. And then once I came back, I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different because I'm a Gemini and that's what I do. So I went for AmeriCorps. So I did AmeriCorps. That was my first taste. I got up and moved to Minneapolis. I'm from New York City, so why would I ever move to Minneapolis? We fell in love with it. I was a case manager and I worked with a lot of students there. I worked with a caseload of 30 plus more students working on attendance, behavior, co-academics, traveling to homes, trying to figure out why students are not a part of why they're not coming to school. I did a lot of professional development through that, like teaching refugees through Minnesota Literacy Council. And I fell in love with teaching through that. So I decided to get my teaching license. Rather than going through like the 2-year process of being a teacher, I was like, let me get a certificate and then get a general license so I can teach at different schools and have control over my schedule. And so I did that. And then I had gotten into ESL and was teaching theater in Spanish in different schools, just traveling and doing professional like service learning projects, project-based learning projects with young people. Then I decided to go and do Peace Corps. So I went to Peace Corps Ecuador because I wanted to learn Spanish. And so I went to Ecuador, met some of my lifelong friends who here in California with me, they convinced me to move to California. So I was like, you know what? I did Peace Corps, loved it, came back, started teaching again. And after a while, I decided I wanted to go to grad school. And so here I am. I'm at the Middlebury International Institute in California, studying international education management. I'm graduating. It's a 1-year program, so I'll be done in May. And right now, just some fun facts about me. I'm an artist. I do literary art. Now I'm doing visual. So I'm working on a podcast to producing episodes to release in the fall, and doing documentary style, like documentaries around like Black identity, around like people of color around the world, and we'll eventually go into consultancy. And that's part of my art. And I like the bike rides. I'm a cyclist. I like to ride my bike. I'm working on doing a tour to San Francisco, which is 11 hours from where I'm at. So let's see if I can do that. I'm training for it, and I have not yet served, but I'm hoping to serve if I can. And so that's a little bit about me and where I come from and what I'm doing these days.
That's amazing. It sounds very adventurous. So thank you so much. And as you know, I have some questions for you. And for anyone that's watching this Instagram Live, feel free to input questions for Femi. I want to make sure that this session is as interactive as possible. So let's begin with my first question, which is, what do you currently do and how did you get there?
So, currently I'm a student. So I'm a student like many of y'all, but previously I was a teacher. So I will talk about how I got there and how I did this career change. So teaching was never a part of my plan. And maybe as a little kid, I've always wanted to be a teacher, but when I first got into college, I went to community college. So I am a transfer student to SUNY Oswego. I transferred in 2013, but I went to community college, Sullivan County Community College. I knew immediately as a second semester freshman that I wanted to do public relations. I love the idea of doing entertainment, like working in entertainment. I love writing, and so I wanted to represent different clients and change perspectives. So I immediately declared my major as public relations when I got into SUNY Oswego. And so from there, I was just like working endlessly to learn about public relations, the different types of public relations, whether I wanted to do community relations or government relations, which is what I ended up doing. But mostly I wanted to just represent like famous people because that's just kind of what my personality was. I'm from New York City, so why not represent famous and get access to Soho. So no, did not turn out to be my plan. By junior year was bored. What was really boring for me was that public relations, I had a professor, I don't think she's there anymore, but she was also my advisor. And she said to me, public relations is one of those high demanding fields where if you are on break, people are still going to call you and you have to answer. And me, when I tell you I deeply value a work-life balance, I do not like the idea of being off 2 weeks. So when she told me that told me that public relations was not for me. So being the Gemini again, I was like, okay, well, I'm a building manager, and I wasn't supposed to scroll on a computer. And I started doing research, like, what can I do now that's just different, that's life giving? And then I saw this contract position with USAID. And that was my first taste of being abroad and working in that capacity in international development. I don't know how I got it. I had internships before and done some community involvement work, but for some reason they saw it and they saw something in me and they gave me that opportunity. That shifted my trajectory. From there, I decided that I wanted to be a diplomat. So I had networks, I got mentors till this day who work in different federal agencies. I continue to do some work around it, studying for the foreign service exam. I speak French, so I'm like, great. This is awesome. And then I said, you know what, I want to go into the Peace Corps, because a lot of them were saying, a lot of my peers at the time were saying, go into the Peace Corps, that's how you get this job. So I was like, great, let's do that. And I was supposed to do the Peace Corps right well after I graduated, ended up not doing it, ended up doing another contract position with USAID. But then when I came back, I felt lost because I didn't get one of my clearances in time for USAID, and I didn't know, I mean, for Peace Corps, and so I didn't know what to do. And that ultimately what pushed me to just do AmeriCorps instead. And when I did AmeriCorps, I really fell in love with education. I love the aspect of the idea that education is a moderator of culture and identities and people and ideas. And I love working with young people so much. And so I did that. And honestly, that's what got me in education. But teaching is hard. It's probably the most hardest thing to do because of the federal policies and state policies. And oftentimes it really affects the way you show up for the kids. And I love the kids. And, you know, the question that came from me is either you like it or you love it. If you love it, you stay as a teacher for 10 years. If you like it, you give yourself 5 years max. And for me, I was like, I love it, but I don't love it enough to stay for 10 years. And so what I do love is traveling. I love culture. I love people. I love languages. I love feeling uncomfortable. I love when my identity is challenged. And so I knew that I went back to my memories of SUNY Oswego and studying abroad. And I was inspired by Keith, who used to be the associate director at the time, who's not there anymore. I think he might be at Fredonia, I'm not sure, but he was at RIT. But Liz is still there, who I'm still in contact with. And I had a conversation with Liz. I spoke with Jackie at the career service and was like, I'm doing this career change. I need you to help me. And she did. And I ended up wanting to do international education and study abroad. And this is where I'm at in grad school doing that very thing.
Thank you. That's very amazing. That's amazing. Like I know like some of my peers that like they don't know if they want what they're studying is something that they're passionate about. And you know, at the moment it feels like it's like over because you're in your junior year and like you're studying something that's like not your passion. But like it's really inspiring, and I thank you a lot for coming here and telling everyone about your journey and that it's not over. Like the past is, it just defines your future.
Yeah.
So my second question would be, would you say your identity has played a part in your career path so far? If so, how?
Yeah, my identity played a huge part. My biggest identity, so it's really interesting. When I was in SUNY Oswego, I would say that my biggest identity that played the role for me would probably be my queer identity. The fact that as a queer person, I had to really grapple with the reality of if I'm visibly queer, right? Will I be able to, can I be safe in the workplace? And without being fired, without people looking at me and asking me questions, making disparaging comments. And that really affected my decision and what I wanted to do with public relations. I should say that also played the role for me as well. And also it tied me to entertainment because I knew that wanting to do entertainment, like working in the entertainment industry as a publicist, would have given me the flexibility to explore my identity in unimaginable ways. And so I really appreciated that. But I think that in terms of that journey, right, like that was the first part of it. But as a teacher, my Black identity really showed up a lot because I'm working in a high needs school, and you're probably one of the very few African American teachers who are working in the school, and students are really leaning to you for support. They're looking at you as a model of fortitude, and they want to learn like what inspired you, what motivates you to move the way you do in the world. And so as a Black person, I'm always advocating for a lot of my African American students, but students of color all the time when I'm talking about school to prison pipeline, when I'm telling them this is kind of like what my background is and where I, how I've gotten from being in New York City in a working class family, and then, having this privilege of just going and navigating different worlds and learning different languages and meeting, important people. That's just through commitment. And so showing that, just really exercising my identity in an unapologetic way was really awesome. But I would say my career decision and where I'm at right now at this stage in the game, almost 30 years old, I will say that being a millennial is really what's dominating my identity, because I don't want to, I know what I want. And what I don't want is to enter the workforce, with working long hours, with poor fringe benefits, or being a vessel where knowledge is being put into, or not having any kind of vacation. I really value myself. I value community. I value, traveling. I want to spend more time just reading a book and doing art and not working all the time. And so when I talk to myself, because I see a question talking about like, what advice would you give your undergrad self? I would say to my undergrad self, it's like, be proud of, just like, don't doubt yourself. Because I doubted myself. Like, I think doubting my ability to advocate for myself is what deterred me from continuing on the path of public relations. But you know what? It's kind of a gift, because it forced me to explore, these other identities that I have. And it put me in a place where I had to ask myself, what is it that you want? And how are you going to show up for yourself in the space with people who thinks differently, or who comes from a different generation from you, or a different racial background, who has a different walk of life or perspective that may not necessarily accommodate or respect your own space and identity. And so that's kind of like the different identities that I've exercised at different points in my life that really shows up in my career right now as the Black queer millennial, just like, la, 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 do what I want, not being bothered by anything, just saying it's my career. I get to decide what I want. And that's the attitude I took in grad school.
Amazing. Thank you. My third question for you is, have you faced any challenges and barriers relating to your identity throughout your career? What is your best advice for students who have faced challenges or barriers relating to their identity?
So I did. I really did. So this is a funny story. So two identities that really shows up for me in this one particular story that was a barrier: one in being a young person, so millennial, a young teacher, and two, being African American. So I used to, during my AmeriCorps service, I was working in school, and like I said, I had to really, like, I'm working with young people, and so I'm advocating for them, and I'm working in a school that's mostly white in a predominantly African American neighborhood, Black neighborhood. And I remember specifically is this word we use in education called school to prison pipeline. When we suspend students, especially students of color, we're putting them through a pipeline that will put them in prison. Because these kids are not going to want to come back to school. They're going to want to hang out in the streets. They feel disposed. And so I'm at this equity meeting where I'm talking about restorative justice and how we need to, rather than trying to suspend students or kick students out, we need to really have conversations with students, give them autonomy, ask them what it is that they want, build intentional relationships with them. And here I'm in this room full of white people, and I'm talking passionately. But of course, when you are a person of color and you're talking passionately, you're Black, then you're angry, and it's misplaced, right? They mischaracterize your passion for anger, and for them, a lot of them was like, well, we felt threatened, we felt very uncomfortable because it felt like you were saying that we were part of the problem. They didn't think about having a conversation with me. They didn't think about saying, perception check and saying, hey, Femi, when you have mentioned, like, talked about school to prison pipeline and how as white teachers we need to step up, like, what did you really mean by that? Do you feel like we're part of the problem? They didn't give me due process. What they did instead, they went to the principal and launched a complaint, which in turn the principal went to my supervisor and said to my supervisor, we don't want him there anymore. Now, of course, my supervisor was super supportive of me, and she loved the work that I was doing. And the kids really loved me. And my supervisor found me a different place to be, but that was really hard because it's with these kids, especially when you're a caring adult and you show up and you really advocate for them, to have that ripped from them is really sad. And I've seen my kids till this day. Some of them now they joke around with it, but before it was just like, why did you leave? There was no explanation to why I left. The principal didn't even give them that. And also, I wasn't taken seriously. My ideas on what racial justice and transformative justice looked like was not taken seriously because I'm a young teacher, a young practitioner in AmeriCorps, and they felt, and there's a lot of hierarchy through the union, through teacher unions, where there was like, wait your turn. You're always told to wait your turn. And when you're in an institution that's mostly white, they don't give you the agency to really impact other students. And so those are two barriers that I definitely face all the time. And I will say that another barrier is being queer. But this time, being queer and being in the Black community, because it's still hard to have those two identities together. If you can't be Black and queer at the same time. You have to be either Black or you queer. And if you queer, then for not every Black person, but in our community, it's this notion that, gay or homosexuality or queerness is like a cultural wonder to whiteness. And so how do you be queer without students singing, are you gay? Because my students, are you trans? Are you gay? And you have to think about, okay, if I tell you this, will I be met with violence? What if a parent says, I don't want him working with my children anymore or my kid because this is a gay, and that happened before. So my queer identity has to take a back seat as a teacher because of the negative reaction that happens. So these are kind of the barriers that's at place. The institution doesn't protect you as a queer person. A student can say, and it happened before, not with me, but a student can say, well, this teacher was flirting with me if they get mad. The institution will not, if you're Black especially, or a person of color and you're queer, the institution, the school system will fire you just like that. They're not going to even give you due process. So that's a barrier as well, and something we have to think about. I hope that answered your question. That was a long,
yeah, thank you. So also, like, do you have any advice for students that are also facing like challenges and barriers relating to their identity?
Yes. So first of all, please find your community, find your tribe. That is so, so important. I would tell you right now, here being in Middlebury, we had a situation where someone in a powerful position had made a disparaging comment about Black students in an email, and we're working in a white institution, right? So it's kind of hard when you're by yourself and you don't know who to really talk to. You don't know like how you can affect change. And for me, I was really moved by the community, the outpouring support that I had from like friends in the community who are also people of color, who's also ready to be called to action and affect change. And I can't stress this enough, but community is so important, especially if you're organizing in the workplace and you're trying to affect change. You want to find people who really support your ideas, who really support you as a person and love you unconditionally, who's willing to go there with you, take the fight to the system to really change it if there's any type of injustice. I will also say, like, this is something that I think a lot about too, but we are also at a place where we have like be unapologetic and know what you want and don't settle for less. As a student, be that way because I'm like that as a grad student. I won't accept anything as truth. I will always challenge that because I'm a professional. I'm not a student, I'm a professional, right? So you have to come in with, I like to say to my friends, I'm Beyonce. I was like, can't nobody be Beyonce but me. I'm Beyonce, and I am like, you're not gonna tell me what to. No, but seriously, really know what if you know what you're talking about, do not waver. Really be challenged that. Be willing to challenge that, and also be willing to disprove your own hypothesis. It's nothing wrong with being wrong, like be wrong all the time. But I really carry that knowledge with me. Like I know what I want and I advocate for myself wholeheartedly. And I'm gonna tell you no. I say a lot of no's than I do a yes, because a lot of times like people, especially with my identity, like to use our work as free labor. They don't want to pay us as our work. And I do my research. So do your research. I'm working, I know after I graduate in May, I'm going to probably be somebody's chief diversity officer. I already know how much they make. I tapped into my communities of people of color who are working in this industry is telling me this is how much you should be making as white people are making. And that's the information I'm taking to the negotiation table, and I'm not wavering that. This is what my experience is. You can't define what that experience is for me because this is how I interpret it and this is who I am. And so that's the kind of advice I would give you. And I will also say take advantage of professional development. I'm probably not as ambitious as I was before because I take a more like California laid back type of way. But be hungry because I was very hungry. As you can see, like I have so many different certificates. I have lived in different continents, traveled in the world. Nobody can tell me no. I did it because I wanted to, because I wanted to have opportunities that I knew that was going to be available in education and in government, which is around language and travel. So take advantage of that. If something free, do it. If you can get it paid, ask for it, and so do that. Because I have so many certificates and like licensures just because I was like, yep, I'm going to do that and I'm going to do that. And it's going to all come around beautifully in a package that's going to make me a candidate worth hiring. So yeah, that's the advice I would give you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very like drawing back about the whole teacher thing and your identity. Like, I think that you're like really brave and courageous for what you've done because like it's hard knowing that these a part of your identity could get you fired or something, and sometimes doing the right thing is hard because there's consequences. And I'm just like so happy that everything worked out for you at the end. And it's really inspiring for everyone who's like watching this right now. See that like there were like low points and then like who you are now, traveling and doing amazing stuff. So thank you.
Have multiple plans, y'all. I got like 10 different backup plans. I got like 10 different backup plans. I tell you, when something happens, I'm like, son of me, that's life. I'm just gonna do something different. And that's like, yeah, don't take yourself seriously, honestly, y'all. Just really find joy in life and just take it one step at a time because time is not linear. I've learned that on my journey right now. It's not linear at all. When I was in Oswego, I was like, I need to have this job at this time. I need to get a house, which I don't want. I don't want a house at all because who said you need to have a house? That's the only way to build wealth. You can have investments, you can do X, Y, and Z. So, like, don't look at time as step A, step B, step C. Just like you get there when you get there, it's so many different doors that you can go through just to get to where you need and take your time with it because I tried to rush through things and that wasn't the best way of navigating life. And it wasn't good for me to try to get from point A to point B. I don't live that life anymore. It's boring. And it's liberating. It really is liberating because a lot of people in my life stress out over trying to get, like, when they don't get something. And for me, I'm like, it's probably wasn't meant for me, and that's okay. I'm gonna continue to do something else that's exciting and life-giving.
So for everyone that's newly joining us, if you have any questions about identity or career, just feel free to type it in for Femi, so we'll answer it. And my last question for you is, why is it important for an individual to reflect on their identity? And what value has that reflection brought to your professional life?
Ooh, this is a really good one. So why is it important to reflect on your identity? That's a very loaded question. What's it a good loaded question though, not a bad one. Why is it important to reflect on your identity? So one one thing that I would say is that it's important to reflect on your identity to remind yourself of who you are and where you come from. I'm an activist, I'm an organizer, I'm a teacher, I'm an artist. And I think one of the things that scares me is that in the society that we live in is that we get socialized into thinking that we have to like have wealth and we have to like move up the ladder. And I oftentimes get afraid of if I forget who I am, then I lose a piece of my humanity and I start to simulate and adopt an identity that can be harmful towards others. And I think reminding myself of my identity and where I come from is a way of practicing harm reduction. It's a way of having empathy for others and really like building solidarity and community with so many other people. So I remind myself of my identity in that way and why I do this work. And what motivates me. Another reason for me to have this identity, like why I reflect on my identity too, is just because I think about like how each of these identities in many ways like has so many like our identities have pros and cons to them. Oftentimes like I am an able-bodied queer person. I'm visibly male and I have advantages that many of my girlfriends wouldn't have, many of my disabled friends wouldn't have. And I have to reminding myself of reflecting on my identity is what's motivating me to create structures or opportunities or create space for those type of other identities to have, to take up, to take residency in and to be someone and to be bold and audacious. And so I really feel like it's important to remind yourself of that because reflecting your identity really anchors you to yourself. It really anchors you to a place of belonging, which is like who we are at our core. And when you lose that, then you tend to lose like sight on your mission in life, and you tend to lose sight on just kind of what drives you and what connects you to people. So that's what I would say. Why it's important to reflect on your identity.
Okay, thank you so much. So I see a question in the chat, and someone asked, do you have any advice for students who are still trying to figure out their career path? What career path is best for them?
Ooh, I got like two different devices. No, so if you figure out your career, it's so funny because I was like a contract. I was actually a career advisor for young people in this Minneapolis city program. But if you, so this is what I would say. Don't worry about your weaknesses. I think it's a myth when people say try to like work on your weaknesses. That's very individualistic. We collectively have a shared responsibility in affecting, society, affecting culture and policies. I will say play to your strengths. What are you good at? And I would think about your personality. So for me, as you can probably tell, I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I love learning. I'm just naturally curious. And I had took the Myers-Briggs, and the Myers-Briggs actually told me that same thing. I think I'm an ENFP, if I'm not, yeah, ENFP. I'm very emotional too. And I had to really think about, through that, I've learned that I'm futuristic and I'm creative and I am someone who likes to interact with people. And I knew when I knew that, once I knew what kind of personality I had and what kind of careers I can be in, I really played to that, to those strengths. I started looking at careers that I feel like would accommodate my personality. If you are not someone who likes numbers and sitting in the office, then maybe being in the office or being an accountant is not for you. But if you're creative, don't worry about this whole you don't make enough money. There's so many ways to make money. I can tell you right now, like I do it as a consultant and teacher, so many different things. Like I just play to your strength. If you're a creator, create. Do that. Believe in yourself and find a career path that's really accommodating their personality. That's something I wish I would have done more. I loved history, and if I could have, somehow turned back the hand of time, I probably would have did like political, maybe history, not political science at SUNY Oswego, or would have did creative writing. But I did it because I was too focused on, oh, that's not going to make money. And then I did public relations, but public relations wasn't my personality neither. So I probably would have did education or history, the things that or philosophy, things that really spoke to my soul and who I am as a person. So that's my advice to you. No, learn yourself, learn about yourself. What is your personality? What brings you joy? What do you like to do when you're by yourself? How do you spend your day? Take those things and connect it to a professional career. You'd be surprised at what you're connected to. And just go out and try it. Experiment. It's nothing wrong. The worst that's going to happen is somebody tells you no. And so just experiment. If it doesn't work, try something else. And so that's what I did. I experimented and I ended up here. But by that time, it was too late because I was a junior already and I didn't want to stay in college anymore. But if you are a junior, then try to find skills that will transfer over into this new industry that you're willing to explore. If you are a first year student or a sophomore, then I would encourage you to really think about who you are as a person and really just play with that and take up different classes. You'd be surprised at what you like. Because honestly, if I did that, and man, I love so many classes I took during my senior year. So that's the kind of advice I have for you.
Someone else in the chat asked, what country did you enjoy living in the most, and which has influenced you the most in your identity today?
Ooh, wait, man, that's such a funny wow, because there's so many countries. Wow, what influenced my identity? You know what? I would say I would say Ethiopia. So let me tell you, funny story is that I thought I wanted to live in France. I was like, oh, I just want to be in France. I was young. I was like 17. I want to be in France amongst the beautiful people and speak French all day and get a citizenship. I was just like definitely drinking the Kool-Aid and I was going through some things, but let me tell you, I got to France and I loved it. I enjoyed it. But what really brought me joy? Being in Ethiopia. That really influenced my identity because Ethiopia, Addis Ababa is just such a beautiful city. The food is amazing. The culture is just very different from West African culture and the work that people are doing. And what I really loved is I loved how people just like break bread with each other, how they invite you into their homes, they invite you to have coffee because coffee originated in Ethiopia, and how they do things together. And that's something that really impacted my identity. I am more collectivistic than I am individualistic. I like to flex both because I think our identities are always in flux. It's never like static. But Ethiopia really taught me what it meant to be in community with people, and I took that with myself and built a community. And I still practice a lot of different things from Ethiopia, but every country I go to. But Ethiopia really taught me the beauty of like family and having people to count on and doing things together, and I really appreciated that. And so that's the country I would say really impacted me the most. Wow, that's so many countries, but yeah, that one definitely.
Is there anyone with any last minute questions for Femi? Don't be shy. He's really nice. um,
Forever hold your peace.
um, Otherwise, thank you, Femi, for your time and sharing your advice for everyone, to everyone, and thank you everyone for watching. There will be another session of my identity and my career next Thursday at the same time. So feel free to join. Otherwise, have a good night, everyone.
Yes, ciao. And feel free to connect if you want to chat. I love chatting with people. So just connect through Instagram or LinkedIn. Don't be shy. Hit me up. All right. Ciao, everyone.
Have a good night. Thank you again.
Anytime. Bye bye.